What I'm going to do here is quickly demonstrate how we can use an animated sprite to change the ball in our Pong game from using a polygon to becoming an animation. Now I've done a little bit of background work before I've started this. I've gone to OpenGamer and I've found a sprite sheet. Now a sprite sheet is a picture like this, and it's got the frames for an animation built into it. And so I've downloaded this sprite sheet from this site and I've saved it into my Pong game folder. So this is where my Pong game is saved, and I've put that image into Pong. And so that means when I load Pong, you'll see that I've now got access to the ball.png in my game, in my resources folder, because I've saved it in there. And so that's the background you need to do as well. You need to get your animation. Now you can find an image and then drag and drop it directly into this folder here. So you can drag it into your file system manager here, and that will have the same effect. Sometimes this has a funny little thing where it doesn't update until you close the program and reopen it. So if that happens to you, just simply close the game. So if you drag it and drop it and it all seems to go, but it doesn't appear in the list, just close your project and reopen it and it will come back. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from my main scene to my ball scene. And you'll see at the moment it's made up of a polygon and a collision shape. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the ball object and I'm going to add a child node to it. And this time I'm going to search for the word sprite. And you'll see there's a number of different sprites you can have. So this one here, the Sprite2D, is a non-animated one, whereas the animated sprite allows you to contain multiple images to play for an animation. So I'm going to choose that and I'm going to create it. And so now it's attached to my ball. You'll see when I load it that I get a little alert saying a sprite frames resource must be created. To do that, you simply come across here to the sprite inspector and you'll see the top option is sprite frames, and at the moment it's empty. So when you click on that, you can say I want to create new sprite frames. And then if you click on the sprite frames, you'll get the little animation frame editor. Now you can create multiple animations. So at the moment you'll see I've got just one default one, but you could create a walking animation and a running animation and a jumping animation and a flying animation and apply them all to this one animated sprite. And that way when the ball is doing different things, you could play different animations. For this game, I'm just going to stick with the default animation. Then I'm going to add the frames. So over here on the right is where you add the frames. You see this button here, you can add the frames one by one. I want to use though a sprite sheet because I downloaded that sheet or I accessed this sheet from the internet already. So I'm going to choose add frames from a sprite sheet simply by pushing that button. There's my sprite sheet. So I choose it and I say open, and you'll see it brings them in. Now it's done a pretty good job. It's guessed that there was 8 by 8. If it's wrong, all you need to do is change this little number. So you'll see there, I've now made it 4 by 8. And so there's 4 frames across and 8 frames down. Now I want it to be 8 by 8. So I'm going to go to 8 by 8. You can also use the other options here to add separation bars between. So if there was a bar separating them, then you can see how the lines are getting thicker, and so the frames are then getting smaller as you go. But I'm going to stick with 0 pixels. So I'm going to take each of those frames just as they are, and so they're going to have a little bit of space around them, which doesn't matter because remember that frame is not the collision object. And same thing with the offset. If the frames are a little bit offset, then you can adjust the offset amount here in order to get those created. Then what you need to do, you'll see down the bottom it says there's no frame selected. And so you need to select the frames that you want for your animation. Now I'm going to just choose the first 5, I think, because you'll see that 3, 4, 5. This one here looks like it's almost finished. In fact, let's go with 6. So I've gone from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the 6th. This one here looks like it's almost finished back to the start, and so that's going to give me 1 rotation of the ball. Now you could add more, and that way you'd get different rotations you want, but I'm just going to go a straight single rotation of the ball, and then I'm going to add those 6 frames. Once you've done that, you'll see here in my Sprite animation frame editor, I've got the default animation. There's my 6 frames. I can then play it to have a look and see what it looks like. So I'm going to play that animation and you'll see that's pretty good. It doesn't look like it's jumping too much. And so let's pause that and stop it. And so there's my animation. Now at the moment I haven't got rid of my polygon. So I'm going to move this animated sprite up in my list. Remember the bottom object is the object that you can see, so that's the one on top. So I've got my collision shape on top now, and you'll see the ball and the collision shape no longer line up. So you have the choice of either resizing the ball smaller or resizing the collision shape a little bit larger. And so I'm going to edit the collision shape, and I'll just grab that little red handle there and make it a little bit bigger so that my ball now bounces around. And the other thing you'll need to do, because we've still got our polygon built into this shape, so you can either just hide it or you can delete the polygon altogether, because we're now going to have our ball made up of the animated sprite and the collision shape. So let's get that polygon and I'll delete it. I should have actually tested it before I deleted it, but that's okay. And so now when I come into my scene, let's save everything first, save all my scenes. Now when I play my animation, you'll see that the ball appears, but it's not animated. So the animation isn't yet playing. It's bouncing around happily, hitting all of my collision objects, so my collision objects are lined up well, but the animation isn't playing. So now we need to add some code to the ball to make it play. So I'm going to go back to my ball object. This time I'm going to edit the script. You'll remember the object we're editing is the animated sprite object. So in my script for my ball, I have to choose when I want to play my animation. This first function, the function ready, appears or runs the first time the ball appears on the screen. And that's when I want my animation to appear or start playing. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to, within that function, I'm going to say $AnimatedSprite2D, and so you'll see it comes up with my word of play. Oop, and that's not how you spell play. And then open close brackets. Now, since all we're doing is playing our animated sprite, and we've only got one animation in there, it's going to play the default one. But you can see the help code that comes up also lets you choose other animations that you would like to play within that, and so you can even change things like that. Looks like you can change the let's go to the help. So to get to help, if you hold down Control and click on there, you'll see it will tell you what to do. And so it's going to play the animation with the key name. And so if you say play default, it's going to play default. Or if you said play walk, then it's going to play walk. And then you've got options where you can change the speed of the animation or make it play backwards and do things like that. So you've got options here to saying play backwards, or you can set that from the end, which will play it backwards. And so that code that we've now added to the ball script, AnimatedSprite.play, is going to play that default animation, hopefully. So let's save our function again, or save our scenes again, because we've now added some code, and we'll push play, and now my scene should play, and you'll see that the ball is now animated as it moves around the screen. And so then I can chase it with my paddle as well, and the ball is actually a little bit large, so I probably should have resized the ball smaller instead of the collision frame larger. Hopefully that will help.